Hi guys! Happy Halloween! I thought that, kind of in keeping with the spirit, haha, of the holiday, I would talk to you a little bit about painting ghosts today. And the real beauty of painting ghosts is it's really not all that difficult. You can apply the techniques I'm showing here to really any figure you want to make them look ghostly. So, if you want to have a sort of medieval army of sort of spectral knights, that's no big deal. You just get your normal knight figures and you paint them in a sort of a ghostly fashion. So that makes this a really versatile technique for, whatever plans you have. Now, obviously, the best thing if you're making a ghost is to try to have it appear transparent. We can't really do that very well or very practically when we're painting figures. So you have to find other ways to make them look ethereal or kind of otherworldly. The way I like to do that is to sort of give them a strange kind of glow or color all over. And my favorite color for that purpose is blue, but green would be another good choice, and even purple, or depending on what you're doing, you could go for even more unusual color choices. It doesn't really matter. The technique's all the same. You can just kind of switch up what colors you're using to get slightly different effects. I'm going to be demonstrating the technique on this Chinese spirit from Black Cat Miniatures. This particular model was obviously specifically sculpted to be a ghost, but again, the techniques I'm going to be showing you here are just the same on any figure that you want to use, and you'll get more or less the same results. First of all, here are the paints that you're going to need for this model. As you can see, it doesn't really take very much. And if you want to make a different colored ghost, all you really have to do is switch out that Prussian blue and the Zerman blue wash at the front. And you can make your ghost green or purple or whatever other color you like, as I mentioned earlier. Or, in fact, if you wanted, you could just leave those colors out altogether and just have a monochromatic kind of white and gray colored ghost. I'm going to start out by base coating the ghost clothing, and for this I have taken some of the neutral gray. I have lightened it very slightly with sky gray because neutral gray is a bit dark by itself, and then finally I've taken some of that Prussian blue and added it in to give the whole color a bit of a blue cast, and you can really just kind of slop this on the figure, no special technique required. Next, I'm going to base coat the ghost's hands, face, and a few detail areas on her dress. Now, you would not necessarily need to paint these detail areas in a different color, but I really like there being just a little bit of contrast and some slightly different shades, even though this is a ghost. I mean, if you wanted to save time, you could easily just leave everything all one shade, and it would probably still look pretty good. This color I made just by taking some of that sky gray and adding a bit of the Prussian blue just to get it slightly bluer. And you can see we're really just going for a somewhat lighter shade, and it doesn't matter that the other paint is still wet. You can just kind of apply it over. It just might take a few extra coats to get enough color because the two shades are going to mix a bit. Once your base coat is dry, you can go ahead and take some Zerman blue and apply a pretty generous wash all over the figure. As you can see, I've thinned it down a little bit with water because it's a little bit too strong right out of the bottle. You want to make sure you get plenty of wash on, but at the same time you want to avoid pooling or any really heavy deep areas where there's too much paint or paint sitting. So you can see I'm spending time spreading that wash out really well with my brush. I'm now going to go back over the dress using the initial base coat. So that was the neutral gray lightened with sky gray and with a bit of Prussian blue mixed in. As you can see, I'm going to apply it to most areas here nice and thinly. You can apply a couple layers if you like to build up some color. This is just something you should do neatly so that you can leave that sort of dark wash that helps define the different areas down in the folds and creases of the dress. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but with the lighter areas of the model. So I've taken that lighter base coat, which is the Sky Gray with a bit of blue in it, and you can see I'm going to go back over all of those areas that I want to be light. And this time I'm being a little bit more neat about it than when I applied the base. When it comes to painting the skin, the same rules as usual apply. So you're going to want to apply this first highlight layer as we're treating it kind of on the higher points and blend out from there. So on the nose, the cheeks, over the eyes, the chin, things like that. And you're going to want to leave extra dark shadows and recesses around the eyes and under the nose and the lips and such things. Next, I'm going to mix up a very dark shade just by taking some of the neutral gray and mixing a bit of blue into it. I'm going to be using this color to touch up really dark areas. So that's primarily going to be on the face. You can see I'm picking out around her eyes and around her mouth and lips and between her fingers, and you may even find a few areas on the dress that you also want to define further. This is the same step that we normally do with black red when we're painting a normal figure and their skin. I'm now going to continue highlighting those extra light areas, and I've just taken some white and added it into my sky gray and blue mixture, and you can see I'm just sort of gradually brightening those places up with a bit more of that lighter paint, just sort of in layers. This is most important on the face, and you can see, like before, I'm focusing on the cheeks, the nose, the chin, all the same areas that I would be on a normal face. I'm just using a different color. And one real important thing I want to note here is that normally we don't paint figures' eyes, or at least I don't, because I don't think they look good at this scale, but a ghost is a little bit of a different story. You want her to look scary and really kind of emphasize that point to make them spooky. So I'm using this white or very light color to paint in sort of their sort of the whites of their eyes, I guess. And they're not going to have pupils, and that's kind of what makes them look spooky. So you really want to emphasize that and probably go extra bright there, maybe even up to pure white. And then I'm just putting one final extra bright highlight on the light areas. I've just added in even more white here. You can see, as I just mentioned, I'm really picking those eyes out with the white paint, and I'm going to continue emphasizing a bit along the lace edges and that silk band. I would also like to point out here that normally I would highlight the lips on most figures, but I'm doing it a little bit opposite on the ghost. I'm going to leave her lips extra dark in relation to the rest of her face. So I painted them with that neutral gray blue mixture, and I'm going to just leave them that way. It looks deathly and a little bit unnatural. You can take just a tiny dot of the light colored paint if you want and just put it sort of in the middle just to give a very slight shiny highlight if you want, but that's not even strictly necessary. With the really light areas done, I'm going to return to highlighting the dress now. In order to do that, I've taken my base shade, which, as you will remember, was the neutral gray, slightly lightened with sky gray and with some blue in, and I've now just lightened it further. And to do that, I've basically just mixed in extra sky gray. You want to keep these layers on the dress nice and subtle. You don't want to go too far too fast. It'll just make the whole painting process a lot easier. And I also should mention that you probably want to be kind of constantly checking how blue the color is, because every time you mix in extra gray, it's going to make the shade slightly less blue. So you're going to probably have to occasionally pep it up with some extra daubs of the Prussian blue. And you can do that to taste too, depending if you want a ghost that's a little bit more gray toned or a ghost that's more on the really brilliant blue tone. The next highlight on the dress is really the same as before. I've just added in even more sky gray, and I'm continuing to emphasize the tops of creases and wrinkles and areas where light would be hitting, and because this is a very sort of subtle effect we're going for, I'm going to be applying, a couple layers in some places where I want to really get a really nice gradual gradation of color. My final highlight on the dress now is going to just be sky gray, tinted somewhat with the Prussian blue, and that's it. I've thinned the paint down quite a bit here so that it won't be too bright right away, and I'm going to kind of apply it almost as an edge highlight on the sort of the brightest areas, and I'm applying it just very gently here. You want to be a little bit timid with your application. You can blend it out. The good news is this color is still not really meaningfully different from the base. I mean, well, it is lighter, but it's not so much lighter that it won't just kind of blend in pretty naturally when it dries. Now I'm going to be base coating the ghost hair using black paint. You could easily skip this step, and probably on a lot of ghost types you're going to want to do this. You're just going to want to paint their hair using one of the same shades that we used on the rest of the figure. But because this is an Asian spirit, it's pretty common you'll see in art for them to have really prominent dark hair, so that's why I'm painting this in a separate color. Even though it's going to be black, I still want to have it unify a bit with the rest of the figure. So to highlight that hair, I have lightened it with a bit of white. Remember, with black, you only need just a hint of white or it'll get too light too quick. And then I've mixed, again, that Prussian blue in. And you can see I'm going to apply that as sort of an overall highlight. The first layer is really just sort of to pick out the individual sort of sections of the hair. I'm then going to highlight it a bit further by mixing in just a little bit more white, getting a slightly lighter shade of blue-gray and using that to define some shiny areas and just kind of brighten and lighten the hair up further. And that makes the hair look a little bit too light and too gray for my liking. So to help really unify everything and really pick out the individual strands better, I'm then going to finish off the hair just by applying a nice heavy black wash of Nuln Oil to the whole area. So here's our finished Asian ghost figure. I had a lot of fun painting this one, and the best part was it really didn't take me very long. I probably spent less than 2 hours all told, which is really very fast for a figure painted to this standard. And if you wanted to cut some corners with the highlighting and shading, and you didn't have to worry about the hair and some other stuff like that, you could do this even faster. So this is really a great technique that you can really easily modify and change up to paint a ghost of basically any type you want and applied to basically any type of figure. So, creativity is really going to be the only thing limiting you from creating your own sort of spectral hordes. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, please share it. Leave me with your comments with what you thought. It's always appreciated. And definitely do subscribe to my channel if you haven't gotten around to doing so already. So that's all for now, and I will see you next week.